roared as Snowpaw stood outside, shivering on the doorstep of her new home. "Hurry up!" snapped Madame Thorn, her stepmother, flicking her tail impatiently. "I won't have a lazy kitten slowing me down." Snowpaw had never met her before. Her real mother had passed away, and her father, desperate for help, had married Madame Thorn. But the moment he left for work, her true colors showed. Gone were the warm meals and bedtime stories. Instead, Snowpaw was forced to scrub floors, serve food, and sleep in the cold attic. Her step-siblings, Raven and Fang, laughed as she struggled. "Face it," Raven sneered. "You're just the maid now." Snowpaw's tiny heart ached, but she refused to cry. She had a plan. One night while sweeping, she overheard Madame Thorn whispering to Raven and Fang, "That fool of a father trusts me completely. Soon all his wealth will be mine." Snowpaw's fur bristled. She had to warn her father. The next day, when her father returned, Snowpaw stood before him, holding a letter she had found, proof of Madame Thorn's lies. His eyes darkened as he read. Madame Thorn's smirk vanished as guards dragged her out of the house. Snowpaw's father hugged her tight. "I should have seen it sooner," he whispered. From that day on, Snowpaw was no longer a servant. She was the princess of her own home. In the dusty attic, Felix found an ancient key, its surface cool and glowing faintly. Intrigued, he wandered the house, seeking its lock. As twilight deepened, whispers floated through the air, and shadows slithered behind him. Finally, a hidden door creaked open, revealing his parents trapped in a swirling void.
What?
"You found us!" they cried, rushing out as Felix pushed the door shut.
Hey!
Safe at last, they curled up together, but the key glowed brighter, pulsing ominously. Suddenly, the whispers returned, louder now, as the key lifted into the air. Felix realized their adventure was far from over. Mittens, a new kitten at school, was the target of Shadow, the meanest cat in class. "Nice fur, Mittens. Did you roll in the trash?" Shadow sneered. Mittens never fought back, but she noticed something. Shadow never ate lunch. The next day, Mittens left a fish treat on Shadow's desk. Shadow looked around, but ate it. For a week, this continued. One day, Shadow cornered Mittens. "Was it you?" she asked. Mittens nodded. Shadow hesitated, then whispered, "My family doesn't have enough food. I didn't want anyone to know." Mittens smiled. "Friends?" she asked, extending a paw. Shadow hesitated, then shook it. From that day on, the bully had her first real friend. Tiny, a small, shy kitten, was always picked on by Claw, the biggest and meanest cat in school. "Hey, Tiny!" Still too scared to fight back. Claw laughed, swiping at Tiny's tail. Tiny never reacted. He just picked up his books and walked away.
Meow!
One day, the school announced a paw fighting tournament. Tiny signed up, shocking everyone. When the big day arrived, Claw burst into laughter. "You? Against me? This will be a joke!"
Woo!
The match started. Tiny dodged every swipe, moving like a shadow.
Woo!
Then whack! Tiny landed a perfect strike. Claw stumbled, eyes wide. Unbeknownst to anyone, Tiny had been training with the elder cats in the alley. Claw lay on the ground, stunned. Tiny extended a paw. "Still think I'm weak?" Claw hesitated, then took it. That day, he never bullied another kitten again.
Wow!
Ember, a sleek orange tabby cat with wide emerald eyes, awoke to a crackling sound. Flames danced around the edges of the room, and smoke filled the air. Her whiskers twitched, sensing danger, but she hesitated. Where were the mother cat and father cat? Panic surged through her small body as the heat intensified. She darted across the room, leaping over burning debris. A beam crashed down just behind her, singeing her tail. She bolted for the door, her heart pounding in her chest, but it was blocked by a wall of fire. Just when Ember thought all was lost, a rush of air pulled her backward, and she felt an odd weightlessness. She realized she had lost one of her 9 lives. A strange sensation washed over her as she blacked out. When she finally came to, she was in the cool shade of a garden, safe but shaken. Her fur was singed and she felt different. Older, wiser. But something else stirred inside her. A memory she couldn't quite grasp. It felt like she had lived through a fire before. As she licked her wounds, Ember knew this fire was no accident. Something from her past had returned to haunt her. As Ember recovered, strange memories began to flood her mind. She dreamt of a grand house, a warm hearth, and a younger version of herself prowling through its halls. But this was not her current home. It was a place from long ago, in another life. She saw the faces of other cats, cats she had known, loved, and lost. In one vivid memory, she saw herself leaping to save a kitten from a similar fire, but the outcome was far worse. She hadn't been fast enough. These memories left Ember shaken. Was she being warned? Every time she closed her eyes, more pieces of her past lives returned. Each life had ended in tragedy, and now she feared the same fate would befall her again. Determined to uncover the truth, Ember set out to find the source of the fire. She visited the remains of the burned house, sniffing through the ashes. As she investigated, she began to realize that the fire wasn't a random accident. There was something, or someone, behind it. She had to figure it out before her remaining lives ran out. Ember's instincts told her to visit an old ally, a wise, gray-furred tomcat named Smokey, who had once been a guardian in one of her past lives. Smokey lived in the woods beyond the village, a place where the air was thick with secrets. As Ember approached his lair, the memories of their shared history became clearer. In a previous life, they had fought side by side to protect their home from danger. Smokey was the key to understanding her past and preventing what was coming. Smokey greeted her with a knowing look, his old eyes reflecting the weight of many lives. "I see the fire has claimed one of yours," he rasped, his voice like the wind through dry leaves. Ember nodded, sharing her fear of what might happen if she couldn't unravel the mystery. Smokey warned her that her past lives had all been connected by a single thread, a dark force that had been hunting her across time. "It is not finished with you yet," he said gravely. Ember felt a chill run down her spine. She realized she was not just fighting to stay alive. She was fighting to break a cycle of doom. With Smokey's words echoing in her mind, Ember knew she had little time to act. The dark force, whatever it was, would come for her again. She returned to the burned house, following a faint scent that seemed familiar yet elusive. It led her to an old, forgotten part of the garden, where an ancient stone statue of a cat stood watch. The statue was cracked and weathered, but as Ember approached, it felt as though it was staring back at her, aware of her presence. Suddenly, memories of an ancient curse flooded her mind. Long ago, in one of her first lives, she had been part of a powerful feline clan that guarded an artifact of immense power. The dark force that now pursued her had been after that artifact. But Ember, in her many lives, had always managed to keep it hidden. Now, the force had found her again. And this time, it was closer than ever to claiming what it sought. Ember realized the fire had been no accident. It had been a warning. She had to stop it before it destroyed everything she loved. Ember's heart raced as she pieced together the final clues. The dark force wasn't just after her. It was after the artifact, which had been buried beneath the stone statue all along. She had hidden it there in her first life, but she had forgotten over the course of her many rebirths. As the memories of her past lives came flooding back in full, Ember knew what she had to do. She had to destroy the artifact to break the cycle once and for all. Summoning all her courage, Ember dug beneath the statue until her paws struck a small, glowing orb. The dark energy around her seemed to thicken, and a cold wind swept through the garden. Ember felt the presence of the dark force closing in, but she did not falter. With one swift motion, she shattered the orb against the stone. A blinding light erupted, and the force screamed in fury as it was vanquished. Ember collapsed, exhausted but alive. As the light faded, she realized the curse was broken. For the first time in many lives, she was free. But Ember knew she would carry the memories of her past forever, a reminder of the bravery that had defined her many lives.
The school bus filled with playful kittens heading to their first field trip was alive with excitement. Suddenly, the engine sputtered and smoke began to fill the air. Flames erupted, and the driver, panicked, abandoned the bus. The kittens were trapped, meowing in terror. Among them, Shy Bella knew she had to act. With tiny claws, she pried open a loose window and nudged the others out one by one. Bella was the last to escape, her fur singed from the heat. Outside, firefighters arrived just in time to extinguish the flames. Bella was hailed as a hero. One firefighter, impressed by her courage, decided to adopt her. As she settled into her new home, Bella's bravery became legendary. She had saved her classmates and found a forever family, proving even the smallest paws can make a big difference.
The sound of screeching tires and shattering glass was the last thing the young kitten remembered. The car had been moving smoothly along the road, with the mother cat and father cat chatting in the front seats while the kitten curled up comfortably in the back. But in a split second, everything changed. The car swerved violently, then crashed, flipping over and rolling before coming to a terrifying halt. The kitten was tossed from its spot, barely avoiding serious injury, but the same couldn't be said for the others. As the kitten crawled out of the wreckage, disoriented and scared, it saw the mother cat and father cat lying motionless. People gathered around, voices blending into a confusing hum as sirens wailed in the distance. A kind stranger scooped up the trembling kitten, cradling it gently as they hurried away from the scene. The kitten's small heart ached with loss, not fully understanding what had happened, but sensing that life would never be the same. The kind stranger, a soft-spoken human with gentle hands, took the kitten home. The place was warm, cozy, and filled with comforting smells, but the kitten felt only emptiness. It missed the mother cat and father cat deeply, and no amount of gentle petting or warm milk could fill the void left by their absence. The human tried their best to comfort the kitten, offering toys and a soft bed, but the kitten would often sit by the window, gazing out as if hoping the family might return. Days turned into weeks, and the kitten slowly began to adjust to the new routine. It followed the human around the house, curling up in their lap and accepting the care it was given. But deep inside, the kitten couldn't shake the feeling that someone from its past was still out there. Strange things began to happen. At night, the kitten would hear faint meows, almost like a distant echo. Sometimes the scent of the mother cat would drift through the air, fleeting but unmistakable. The kitten's small heart filled with both hope and confusion. Could it be that not everyone was lost? One rainy evening, as the kitten sat by the window watching the droplets slide down the glass, something outside caught its attention. A figure moved in the shadows near the street. Too far to make out clearly, but its shape seemed familiar. The kitten's heart raced. It pressed its tiny paws against the window, straining to see more. For a brief moment, the wind shifted, and the scent of the father cat wafted through the air. The kitten's ears perked up, and it meowed loudly, hoping for a response. But just as quickly as the figure had appeared, it vanished into the night. The kitten was left with a mixture of feelings: relief that perhaps someone had survived, and sorrow for the uncertainty that still clouded its heart. The kind stranger noticed the kitten's agitation and gently picked it up, reassuring it with soft words. Though the kitten had found a new home and someone to care for it, the mysterious signs from its past lingered like a whisper in the wind. The kitten knew it had to keep looking, to hold on to the hope that one day it might reunite with the family it had lost. But for now, it curled into the stranger's arms, ready to face whatever the future held.
A tiny stray kitten sneaked onto a cargo plane, seeking warmth and food. Mid-flight, the plane encountered turbulence and crash-landed in a dense forest. Amid the wreckage, the kitten emerged, unharmed but scared. To her surprise, she wasn't alone. A human survivor, a pilot named Jake, was injured and struggling. The kitten instinctively stayed with him, providing comfort and warmth through the cold nights. Jake noticed the kitten's keen sense of direction and decided to follow her lead. Days later, she led him to a river where rescuers found them.
Thank you.
The kitten's sharp instincts saved Jake's life, and he promised never to part with her. Back in civilization, Jake adopted the kitten, naming her Miracle. The media dubbed her the hero cat, and her tale of survival captivated hearts worldwide. Miracle had not only found a family, but also became an inspiration for resilience. Lived in an alley with her 4 kittens. Struggling to find food, she made a heartbreaking decision. She brought her kittens to a shelter, hoping they'd have a better life. One kitten, Momo, was adopted by a wealthy family. Despite the comfort of his new home, Momo felt incomplete. He missed his siblings. One night, he escaped and returned to the alley where they'd last been together. To his surprise, his wealthy owner had followed him. Momo led them to the shelter where his siblings still waited. Touched by the reunion, the family decided to adopt the entire litter and Mama Cat too. The alley cats were now a united family, living in luxury. Momo had proven that love and loyalty can bridge any divide, and his determination gave his family a second chance at life together.